After all this time, there's one question I haven't been able to answer. But something tells me that I'm finally getting close. The bloom filters are a dead end, just like those film nuts. They only do half of the job. Look at these. Perfect grain, halation. The resolution is all still there. What's so different about you? This feels more tangible than digital. How do you emulate that? Dehancer? What is this? What are all these features? Film grain, halation, overscan, film damage. This is everything I need. Have I finally found my answer? Or is this another dead end?
So this isn't going to be a technical deep dive into the world of film and Dehancer. I'm no expert when it comes to celluloid film, and if you are, please let me know if you see any inaccuracies in this video. Just keep that in mind, I'm just talking about what I've learned so far. So let's talk about film stocks, the actual stocks that you can emulate with Dehancer. There's a very wide selection of film stocks, including many photography stocks like Portra, Superia, and even some experimental stocks like Lomochrome. It's honestly overwhelming, the selection that exists. There's so many photo stocks to choose from. However, I'm gonna get this right out of the way up front of this video, is my biggest complaint with Dehancer is that it only has 6 motion picture film stocks. I really wish there were more film stocks. The selection is very slim. Editor Micah here.
So there are more than 6. There is the extra Kodak Eastman XX5222, which is a black and white film used on Oppenheimer and a number of other films. So there may be more on this list that were used in a film format, but from everything that I'm seeing, it looks like we're still missing a lot of those old classics.
4 of them are Vision 3. The good thing is that more than likely every movie that you've watched in the past 15-20 years has been shot on these variations of Vision 3. For example, La La Land, Oppenheimer, Interstellar, and many, many more. Honestly, it's harder to find movies that were shot on film that aren't shot on Vision 3 than it is to find anything that isn't, if that makes sense. But I really wish they would add my favorite stock, which has gotta be the Eastman 5247, I think. That stock was used on classics like Lawrence of Arabia, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Blade Runner, the original Dune, Apocalypse Now, Back to the Future, and so many more. With that being said, honestly, with the stocks that Dehancer provides, you can get really close to the look of that Eastman stock. You can pull multiple different looks out of one stock like you can in real life, right? During the coloring process of Dehancer, you almost simulate the entire development and printing process of film. So it's definitely not a deal breaker for me. I reached out to my contact at Dehancer. She's been amazing and very patient with me getting this video out. And she said, yes, we are constantly working on adding more stocks and emulations to Dehancer. So I'm sure there will be more to come. So my favorite film stock that Dehancer has right now has got to be Vision Pro 500T. Did I say Vision Pro? I said Vision Pro like the Apple headset. That's funny. My favorite film stock has got to be Vision 3 500T. That's it. 500T is a tungsten-based film, however, it's been used outside of tungsten environments, kind of universally, and it looks really, really good. I love the little tinge of purple that it adds to the shadows. And as far as film prints go, I haven't really explored anything outside of the Kodak 2383, which is absolutely amazing. So the process with Dehancer can literally be as simple as selecting a stock, the print, and calling it a day. But you also have insane levels of control when it comes to the development and printing simulation process. You can dial in the film with tools like push, pull. You can adjust exposure, tonal contrast. So there are a few specific features that Dehancer has that really changes the game for me. The two biggest features for me are, for sure, the film grain and the halation. So the film grain blows my mind for a few reasons. The amount of control that you have over the look of the grain is amazing. Each film size has its own ISO variants. So 8, 16, 35, and 65 millimeter have each 50 ISO, 250 ISO, and 500 ISO. And it doesn't stop there. You can adjust the intensity of the grain once you've selected a frame size and ISO. So you have a ton of control. Now for me, the coolest part and what separates this from everything else is how it realistically affects the resolution of the image based on the ISO and film size. Now to understand this, you first have to understand how film captures light. It's basically the same way digital works, but instead of having tiny light-sensitive pixels on a sensor, you have millions of microscopic silver halide crystals. A 4K image is made up of about 8.3 million pixels, whereas 35mm film averages about 8.64 million crystals per frame. So 35mm film resolves slightly higher than 4K images. Now 70mm is estimated to resolve somewhere around 18K. Okay, so quick side note, if you haven't watched anything in actual 70mm projection, you need to go see the next movie that they're showing in it, because it is a absolutely life-changing experience. That's a bit dramatic. It is a breathtaking experience. 100% you need to do it. Do it. Go watch it. I got to watch Oppenheimer, Tenet, the re-release of Tenet in 70mm, and Dune 2 all in 70mm, and it was amazing. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. So 16mm resolves a little higher than 1080p, and 8mm resolves around 480 to 720p. So say you want to go for an 8mm look, right? You want to emulate the look of 8mm film. What I traditionally would have done before Dehancer is go online and grab a 8mm film grain overlay. And that's fine, but then when you apply that, you're still maintaining the 4K image beneath it. What's really cool about Dehancer is that it basically simulates the resolution drop that you get with 8mm film, but you still maintain the sharpness as if it was a high resolution scan of 8mm, right? So basically you're seeing the image through the emulsion rather seeing an overlay on top of a 4K image, if that makes sense. But it is still technically an overlay. So when you're using the 8mm film grain, you're getting a true 8mm resolution. Rather than dropping the timeline resolution down to something like 720p, then everything will look just mushy, right? So this is a far better way of doing things, and it's just another element that adds to that realisticness and simulation of that film look. The other tool that I think really stands out with Dehancer is halation. Dehancer is basically the only one that I've seen that really correctly emulates halation. It's not as simple as contrast in the highlights, right? There's a lot more that goes into it. I highly recommend reading this blog from the Dehancer team. They go super in depth of how they calculate and simulate the look of halation and talk about where it shows up, right? It's more than just those high contrast points where that's generally very prominent, and that's fine, but also in the midtones. And it's really cool because in older movies, you'd see all the skin tones are normally a lot warmer, right? And that's due to halation and the color grading limitations at the time. They didn't have the ability to correct it. So if you're going for that older look, that's something to consider. Just like the film grain, they have different profiles for the film sizes. The smaller the film size, the more present the halation will be. So on 65mm, you're probably not going to see a lot. However, on 8mm, it's going to be very present everywhere. Again, keep that in mind whenever you're trying to go for a specific look. Halation is something that can easily be overdone, right? When you have a ton of it, it doesn't look good. As with all things, it's great in subtlety. All these film stocks, the halation and the film grain are the biggest features that for me make Dehancer so great. However, there are three more smaller features that I don't use that often that I do want to touch on and mention here. There are basically all of your color correction tools inside of Dehancer, so you don't have to have a multi-node structure, although I'd recommend that if you're really wanting to dive deep into the color. But it's cool to be able to adjust small details here in one node. So pretty cool. I'm still using a multi-node structure, but this is a cool option to have. So let's talk about gate weave. Have you ever noticed on specifically smaller film formats, the slight jitter that the frame has, even when you're still? That's gate weave. And Dehancer has this setting here that you can adjust the intensity of that jitter. Again, small detail, love it. Film breathe. So in older films, you'll notice a little bit of tint change, right? From magenta to green in certain areas. And that's what film breathe does. It's always something that I have turned on and very, very subtle. Again, all these features don't get you 100% there, but when they compound, they create this look that's so convincing. Bloom. Bloom's a big one. I used to be a big bloom filter guy. I'm not so much anymore. I prefer a clean lens, and I'm never a fix it in post guy. However, with Dehancer's bloom, honestly, I would rather shoot without a filter and add Dehancer's bloom instead. For the sole reason is that it's just as good. In my opinion, it looks really, really good. It doesn't pull up the shadows, and you have ultimate control over how much bloom you want. With something like a Cinebloom or Promise filter, you're bathed into a quarter or an eighth of diffusion, but here you can control how much you want. And there are more specialty features like overscan. It basically is what the raw image would look like whenever you scan film, where you still see the perforations on the side. Not sure when I'd use this other than maybe emulating like a 8mm travel film, but it's cool to have. And vignette is something that I never really touch on here, but sure, glad to have it. So if you're thinking about picking up Dehancer, what's cool is that it has a few different versions. So if you don't want the full package, if you're not going to use everything, you don't have to buy everything. You can get the whole package or a more stripped down version with most of the core features. You can get just the film grain, just the bloom, just the halation, just the film breathe and damage, so you're not forced into buying that whole package. And I'll say my only other complaint with Dehancer as a whole is the price. I do think the Pro version is a bit pricey at $449. It's a lot of money to spend. It's really up to you if you want to make that investment. And if it were me personally, what I would do is purchase the Dehancer Lite version and buy the halation separately. That package right there is $300 instead of having to spend $150 more. They have plugins for DaVinci Resolve, Final Cut Pro, After Effects, and Premiere. They also support a lot of photo editing apps. So if you end up wanting to pick it up, you can use code Micah is cool. I don't know how that got there. Well, I guess you just got to use it. You can use code Micah is cool. Thank you, by the way, for 10% off any order on Dehancer. And to be fully transparent with you guys, I am getting 10% of the Dehancer sales that are made with this code. So if you're gonna buy it, you should totally use that code. It's a win-win, you know? Dehancer also has an iOS app. I think where this really shines is more editing photos on the road. It's really cool for that. But you absolutely have the ability to color grade full videos inside of the app. And what's crazy is that you have almost every feature from the actual desktop plugin. So it's cool to have that in your pocket. So if you think this is for you, I'd say give it a go. Personally, I'm gonna be using this all the time. If you want to try it out, they do offer, I believe it's 30 days free. So you can give it a free trial, test it out, and see if it's for you. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, and I hope you guys got something out of this video. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say.